Have you ever wondered what goes into your favorite brand's digital marketing strategy? I'm Tara, the founder of TJ Creative Agency.
And I'm Audrey, the creative marketing director of TJ Creative Agency. Whether you're an influencer, a business owner, a content creator, or just an overall creative person, we'll teach you how to create the perfect social media strategy and build your brand online.
Cool. So, Andi, can you give us a little bit of an introduction to you? Who are you in your own words?
Yeah, I love that question. Like, who are you in your own words?
Yeah.
I read that and I thought that was cool. And then I also was thinking, who am I? You know,
It's kind of a
what makes
daunting,
me me?
it's like a daunting
Yeah,
question. Everybody's like, who? It's like almost like,
yeah.
gets you in
But I
gets you in your
think
head.
it does, but I think it's a good thing to do once in a while, right? Like, because
Yeah.
we're so go, go, go in our society. And it's like, no, like reflecting on your identity or who you are too, I think is very important. So I can share, I am Andi. I was Andi Long. Now I'm Andi K. I got married July 2021.
Oh my gosh, congrats.
Thank you. And I grew up in Southern California. I love reading and journaling. There's this word I've been trying to get to. It's like I'm a person who, once you go through something hard, you kind of find the lesson in it to share with others. Like that. I wish there was a word so I could say I'm this kind of person, but I really am. I think that's something to describe. Like one way to describe me, and I appreciate that about myself too. So I guess I would describe myself that way too.
I love that. I love when people answer that question. Like not just like this is what I do for work, because I think a lot of times people are, when someone's like, describe who you are, I would be like, I'm Audrey, I work in social media. Like, you know what I mean? Like I do so much more. So I like when people come on the pod and answer like, just there's more to you.
There's way more to you. Yes.
Yeah, but I like the question. It does kind of make you go there too. So great question.
Makes you think just a little bit. Perfect. Well, so Andi obviously started well, not obviously. She started Bloom Foundation for those of you that don't know. And so we're kind of going to jump into that a little bit. I would love to kind of, go through how you decided to start it, what was your motivation in starting it? What was that experience like? Just kind of walk us through that.
Yes, yeah, sure. Cool. Okay, great. So, when I was in middle school, it was 2001, I want to say. I was 11, so 2001. And I don't know if y'all remember, but there was dial-up internet at the time.
Yeah.
And so I had a giant computer behind me. And I would go on it and search up because someone created this website called School Scandals. So I would go on this website and I saw someone created a username, Andy's a loser, just started writing really mean things about me online. And it was very confusing to navigate, the internet, but also these websites that were created. I feel like primarily for gossip. And so that was very confusing to experience. And it did, when you're in middle school too, did you both have like an awkward phase? Because I sure did.
Yeah,
yes, for
and like
sure.
we all had an awkward phase. And I'm sure
Yes.
that was tough to navigate just because you don't know, like, you're not confident in yourself and you don't really know who you are yet.
Exactly. Yeah. Sixth grade is when you're kind of in it, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I was navigating my identity and then having those things online and kind of like a forum about me. That was difficult. And then unfortunately it happened again. So School Scandals got shut down, I think, like in 2003. But it happened again with another website called Juicy Campus, but very similar concept. This was when I was a little bit older too. I was probably 18. And someone wrote Andi Long discuss and just wrote like very mean things there. They wrote, she's fat, she's ugly, she needs to go to the gym. She looks like a raccoon, like digging in the trash. She's just really terrible things that I don't even want to repeat here. But that did really stick with me and it brought me down a lot. So I experienced both of those incidences, and both times I was looking for support and looking for kind of how can I feel like less alone in this, or who do I talk to? I did talk to, people around me and my parents, but it was very confusing for them too, right? Because cyberbullying was new at that time.
Right.
Yeah.
So I really felt, a few years later after that experience, what I couldn't find, I would be interested in looking how to create it and create that safe and supportive space that I feel like I needed when I was younger. So that's where Bloom Foundation really, I would say that's why I started Bloom, because I
Yeah.
really felt the need for those kinds of services. And I think the narrative around bullying for me has always been anti-bullying or bullying prevention, which is necessary.
Right.
But I think there was that missing piece in my experience, where I needed something if you're going through it or after you've
Yeah,
experienced it.
there's
Here's how
nothing
to grow.
for like, what do you do when it's happening to you?
Mm-hmm.
It was
Yes.
like, go
Yeah.
tell an adult or something, or go, but there
Yes.
wasn't anything for you to actually do.
Yeah, there's no
Right.
steps.
So
Yes.
I kind
But
of want
it's
to pull back just a little bit, just for the people listening. Can you kind of give us like a little elevator pitch on what Bloom Foundation does? We'll get more into the work, but just so they have a little bit of context.
right. Sure. Yes. Bloom Foundation exists to help encourage young women to grow and heal from bullying. And we provide journals, workshops, community, so that you can grow and heal from bullying and also know that you're not alone.
Yeah, I love
That's
that.
incredible.
I love
Mhm.
that.
Thank you.
So when you like first had this idea of, you realized that there was something missing in, I don't want to say
The
society. I don't know.
space.
Yeah, in the space there,
Yeah.
there was a
Space.
gap. How did you had the idea, how did you actually take it to fruition, if you will?
Yeah. Yeah. So going back to also my story, I was feeling really down in the dumps. And I was watching like a lot of Twilight and like eating a lot of
Yeah,
ice cream at the time, like not going
of course.
outside. But actually, what like a cool moment for me, my friend invited me to church, which was really helpful. And I heard this quote, and they said they tried to bury us, but they didn't know that we are seeds. And
Oh,
I
that's cute.
loved that
Yeah.
quote. Yeah,
Yeah.
that really stood out to me. And so from that, I just really pictured it. I was like, okay, even if you feel buried, you can still grow and heal and, you know, bloom from adversity. So that's where I took the name from. That quote, they tried to bury us, but they didn't know that we were seeds. And then to start this, it was a difficult process just because the first 6 months you're like, can I do this? Like,
Yeah.
Mhm.
even though I noticed this gap, like, am I the
It's a
person to
whole other
do
thing
it?
to actually
Hmm.
make it happen.
Yes,
Hmm.
yes. But it's funny because I couldn't stop thinking about it, or I was like, I really think this could be, a really cool thing. So, but what was really helpful for me, I asked someone to help coach me. And I really committed to it. I was like, you know what? I need extra support. So this person would actually, they sent me this book. It's called Will It Fly by Pat Flynn. I have like a
Okay.
few copies because it's really
Yeah.
helpful. But
Is it?
yeah, Will It Fly? It says how to test your next business idea so you don't waste your time and money.
Mm.
And he really equates it to like building an airplane, or yeah, like an airplane. You want to think about will it fly? He equates it to like a paper airplane, which is cool. He has some like examples of his kids making paper airplanes and like seeing
Yeah.
just testing and experimenting, which I thought was really helpful.
Yeah.
So we went through this book together. We just met for lunch and there's homework in here. So I built out kind of a business plan through that and validated it. I think it's in here too, but it's, minimal viable product, MVP. Like they really encourage me to just like get your MVP out there instead of like, um, you know, just trying to build this big, big thing. Just try to do what you can with where you are now. And
Right.
that was really helpful.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Love that. That's actually
Yeah.
like kind of a great segue into just like talking about how you actually start and operate a nonprofit, because I'm sure people listening are like, yeah, we know what a nonprofit is, but I'm sure like next to nobody listening knows how you actually
Actually,
get
go about it.
started on that.
Start
So
it.
how, like, what was
Yeah.
the process of actually establishing yourself as a nonprofit?
Yes. Yeah. And so there's different routes you can do. You can hire a lawyer, have them do it all for you, which I actually would recommend, although that's not what I did. I did the
Yeah.
DIY route, which is fun too. So I started by doing LegalZoom, starting there, and they help you incorporate. And you fill in forms and they help you, which I thought was really actually a good way for me to do it at the time. And then CharityNet, they help you establish your 501c3 status. So similar thing, you fill in a form and they help you file. And then you receive both your articles of incorporation, your 501c3 tax exempt. It does take quite a bit of time. I remember it taking like maybe 2-3 months total to get all of that set up.
Yeah.
You can file for your EIN pretty easily online as well. So a lot of it, I have these steps actually in a form too. Like it's funny, I piecemealed it together as I was going forward, but later on I saw this is the checklist, and so there's a very not simple, but it's outlined. You know, these are the steps in a checklist of how to start a nonprofit. So I basically went through that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kind of to dumb it down for someone, i.e., me, who doesn't really know what it means to like have a nonprofit. Like, what is that? I don't know if this question makes sense, but like, what does it really mean to be a nonprofit? Like, what do you get from
A
filing
nonprofit.
and establishing yourself as a nonprofit?
Yes. So tax exempt means that the donations that you get for your donors, they can, it is tax exempt for them. So they can
Okay.
submit
Write
that
it
to their
off.
accountants. Yes.
Yeah.
So that's a benefit for them. And then as a nonprofit, you can receive donations, whereas a for
Okay.
profit doesn't necessarily receive donations.
Okay.
Okay.
Was just curious.
Makes
So,
sense.
during this process, when you were kind of setting up and you were just getting started, I would love if you could just be like a little transparent and talk us through like any struggles that you had or, obstacles that you might have had to overcome.
Sure. Yeah. Like I mentioned, self doubt is huge, right?
Yeah.
Like those kind of questions. I think not knowing exactly. So I think what happens is that you just see the next step that's illuminated as you take one step.
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah,
kind of
right.
difficult. Yeah. Like not knowing the full picture, but just like taking one step and then you see the next step and then you take,
That's
yeah,
my mom's
that's,
advice to me anytime I get overwhelmed with anything in general, actually, is she's
yeah.
like, essentially, like, zoom in, like, stop looking at things so big
Yes.
picture and just look at it like, what's the next step? You can only do one thing at a time because I feel like I'm the type of person, I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this, but when you have like either big goals or big ambitions or whatever, and
Mhm.
you just see like this big thing that you want to accomplish, you're like, how the hell am I going to get there? You know?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
you
true.
have to take it one thing at a time. I think, yeah, just not knowing that you have a big vision, but breaking it down. That's a huge challenge for me, even to
Yeah.
this day, right? Like, how do, like, I can see the end goal, but then
But how do you
getting
get
the
there?
piece, yeah, and
Yeah.
mapping that out, you know, and I think what helps with that too is just having advisors speak into you, like speak into the plans and like guiding you too. It's really a blessing when people can like use their life experiences, share that with you so that you can kind of fast track it.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely a challenge.
So it
Yeah.
sounds like you really leaned on either people in your life or the coaches, and which I think is amazing. I think
Yeah.
everyone needs that is starting something. Have someone who's been through it before you to help you out through this. But how are you able to find those people? Are you just surrounded by entrepreneurs?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's funny. I think, and this ties into marketing too, but it's like as you share your mission, even how I met Tara, I just shared, this is my journal, this is what I've worked on. And you just find people curious. And then
Yeah.
I guess I do. Yeah, I've been lucky and also very blessed. People who are very smart and successful, like they see it and they're like, oh, this is great. And then like how kind of just naturally give that advice, which I think is, now that you're saying that, I'm like,
Yeah, I'm
that's
like,
I
very
how did
also
cool.
feel I also feel
Yeah.
like a lot of entrepreneurs or people that you're, reaching out to have had similar experiences.
True.
Usually, I mean, a majority of people, I want to say, went through bullying, but
True.
to get on the other side of it is a whole nother thing.
yeah.
And I think, yeah,
True. Yeah. Yeah. And I think there's still just this big space that we can focus on of like how people have overcome bullying, right?
yeah,
Like in the future, I might have my podcast, like how to bloom from bullying and just like interview guests, right? Because I think, um, I think the bullying space really is so much of like anti-bullying, but I'm just so
Mhm.
curious about people's stories and like how they grew from bullying and, became who they are today, right? Like,
Yeah.
and I can ask that question, like, describe yourself in your own words and how you got there. One of my good friends, she has a podcast and she asks people, like, what did you go through to become the guide that you are today? Or what did you grow through to become the guide you are
I love
today?
that.
And she said she got that from me because in Bloom, we do that a lot, right? Like, how did
Yeah.
you grow through what you went through to now become a guide for others? And I think it just is kind of that natural process of that people do is again like just kind of going through their experiences, pulling out some gems to share with other
And
people.
I
So
love that you like word it like that too, because it does make people kind of reframe their past. It's very easy to
yeah,
look back at bad things that happened to you and be like, why did this happen to me? Like, blah, blah, blah. But when you put it like that and when you really think about it, you're able to reframe it to be like, you know what? I wouldn't be, I wouldn't have this trait or I
yeah,
wouldn't be like this if I didn't go through that,
yes,
you
so
Exactly.
know?
true. Mm-hmm.
So that kind
Exactly.
of leads me into like, I do really want to dive into the work that you do with Bloom Foundation. So if you could kind of just, give us a bit more of a specific of like the programs that you guys have. I would love to hear more about the journal. Just like this is your time to really tell us all about it.
Yay. Yeah, great. So I'll show you too. So this is what the journal looks like. It says a journal to help you learn how to bloom. And so we have 7 foundational values that we take girls and women through on how to grow from it. Kind of like how we were saying before, too, when you experience bullying, you're told to tell an adult. But I do think that just very specific things in us get affected. So
Mhm.
this kind of addresses those things, if you will.
Yeah.
So, for example, the first one's called Being Buried, and this is addressing those negative things that have been said about you, because otherwise they'll really just kind of sit with you, and maybe carried into adulthood. So I share a little bit about my story, and then what things have been said about me, and then we encourage you to write down all those negative things. And then you ask yourself, do you think this is true? Or how true does this feel to you? And how can you address each negative thought with a more empowering truth that feels right for you? And then the next step, you can turn these into morning affirmations and say them out loud to yourself for at least 7 days so that it becomes a part of your thought
Yeah.
pattern.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's actionable,
Mm-hmm.
like
Yeah.
process. Yeah.
And huge. I think it's the first section because it's so important. It's so important. And I'm so passionate because I just really don't want people to hang on to those things that they don't have
Hmm.
to, right? Like
They're
we were
just
saying.
they're
Yeah,
self-limiting beliefs that we build up,
exactly.
and
Yeah.
then they
Yes.
just stick with us, and
I
we
was going to
repeat them,
say
and we don't understand
it's
we don't even
wild
realize we're saying
the
them.
things that will
Yes.
stick with you. Like, even
Yeah.
I know that there's
Yes.
things that people had said to me when I was probably 10. I'm 26
Yes.
and I'm still like, I can tell you
Yes.
word for word what this person said to me and
Yeah.
why it affected me.
I know.
Uh-huh.
I know. Yes. And so, what I love about having like an physical journal too, you write it down so it's on paper and no longer just floating in your head.
Yeah.
I mean, we might still remember it. I think there's something special about putting it on paper, and yeah, so that it kind of breaks up that pattern, like we're
Yeah.
saying. But I think we use our phones and computers a lot, but that's why I love journals.
Same.
And bringing it
Yeah.
back.
Journaling
Journal.
is like my biggest, whenever I am like going through something, I tell people this all the time. And I don't know if I think a therapist started me like journaling when I was really little, but
Good.
that's like my one. If I'm ever overwhelmed or I feel anything other than just
Yes.
like content, I'm like, I got to journal it out.
You got to journal
Yeah.
it out, pen to
Journal it
paper.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
I love
Yeah.
that.
Okay. So the next one is being planted, and this one's about shifting your perspective. So this one is kind of about when you're in it, you feel like this is it, or this is, your whole world. But, in 7 years, you'll be in a different place. I was just listening to a podcast too about how the cells of your body changes every like 7 to 10 years.
Yeah.
So we try to help them draw a timeline here. 7 years ago, where were you? 7 years from now, where will you be? What have you overcome in the past? And then how can you apply that for what's to come? And then also just really thinking about what's on your bucket list. What do you want to achieve in the next 7 years, so that you can just shift your focus and know that right now is not all that there is.
Yeah.
And we talk about like a tunnel, right? Like if you're going through a dark tunnel, there's always light at the other side. And no tunnel lasts forever. So it's kind of about hope too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
I
love
love
that.
that.
Yeah. And then one other section, budding and rising, is about having coping strategies and skills that you have to do. So like I mentioned, a lot of Twilight and ice cream, but here we say like, what are things you can do to like create or exercise or travel? And again, see that the world is bigger than right now too.
Yeah.
And I love that you both are creative, but you know what I mean? When you get into that zone, you're
For sure.
probably like in a different place too.
Yeah.
And I know that so many girls are being creative now, with so many different things, but it's
There's a
kind
lot
of
of
that
options.
shift.
I kind of
Yes,
love, this is just a sidebar, but I kind of love social media for that reason. Obviously, there's pros and
I
cons to it,
know.
but like I've been talking about cake talk a lot, but I've been really
Okay.
sucked down a rabbit hole of like decorating cakes. But like it's just
That's
cool
awesome.
because I feel like when you're younger, you can see so many different types of hobbies. Like I even talk to my friends now and I'm like, as an adult, it's like weird, not weird to have hobbies, but you don't really think about hobbies, but it's kind of like
Hobbies.
put in your face. I don't know, like crocheting and like
Yeah.
knitting has become really
Yeah.
popular, or the like pin, like the needle, whatever
Hmm.
it's called, where
I know
they,
what you're talking
I
about.
don't remember what it's called,
Like
but
embroidery
yes,
cakes.
yeah, like that
Yes.
kind of stuff, like cake decorating, like all this kind of stuff that I do think that's like a cool part of social media is that there's like, it kind of gives you ideas of like, okay,
It does.
I'm kind of in a mood. What can I do to, you know,
Yes.
get out of
Yeah.
it?
No, I was talking to my friend about how like millennials need to have more hobbies.
Mm-hmm.
Like for some reason, I think we just got into work mode right after college.
Yeah.
And we're kind of revisiting hobbies and what that means for us, and
Hmm.
taking that time to do that. So I totally agree with you. And I do like how social media now you get inspired of like, oh, I want to make this recipe, or
Yeah.
Yeah.
like write poetry, things like
Yeah, just
that,
like
right?
random stuff you see other people doing it and you're like, I could do that. That's where I've been with the cake talk. I'm like, I could definitely
Yeah,
start. I could do that probably.
you
But like I
could.
have friends, I thought it was so cool. I have friends that went to like a beginner like ballet class the other day.
Yes.
And I'm like, that's
Or
so cool. Or
pottery.
yeah, yeah, my
Yeah.
friends and I like
Mm-hmm.
have it on our list of stuff to do this summer of like
I love
pottery
that.
or like learn how to play golf, learn how to play like tennis, just like different things. Because it's so
Yes.
true. You do like, I feel like after you graduate college, or even if you didn't go to college, you just kind of like, your brain is immediately like, okay, how can I make
Into
money
work.
and
Yeah.
sustain my life?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Basically. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, that
Yes,
was a
I love that.
sidebar,
Thanks
but
for sharing. Yeah, no, and there's also just like a schedule here where you can like put it down. Like Monday I'm going to do this,
yeah. Oh,
Wednesday
I
I'll
love
do
that.
this, so that you can really prioritize it. Yeah. Okay. Spreading seeds. This one's about kindness and choosing kindness, even if you're not experiencing kindness. So knowing that you can activate it at any time, you never have to feel good enough to do an act of kindness. And it can actually help you take your eyes off your own pain and help someone else and just kind of get you out of that funk too.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it's pretty straightforward, but we all know, being kind is good, but it kind of activates it again. Like, what's one quick act of kindness that you can do today? You can also do it through your phone so easily, right? Like, you can write a nice Yelp review
Yeah.
for a small business. Like, you
Yeah.
can do it
It can
immediately.
be
You don't
easy.
have to like,
Yeah.
it can be easy. Yeah. But I think it's just so empowering too, to know that you
Mm-hmm.
have that ability. Being watered is about self-worth. And so, this one's kind of fun. It's, no one can take away your worthiness, even though it might feel like that. So we help them build themselves up by writing down 10 reasons to love yourself.
Yeah.
And 10 can be a lot, but
Yeah.
I think we, again, need to break up like that. We just get into the go, go, go mode and we're doing, but we just need to stop and reflect on like, what are those things that I love and appreciate about myself?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like
So
that too, because I think even as adults, people struggle with that question. Like, what do
yeah,
you like? Even three things. People will be like, what do you like
three
about
things.
yourself? You know what I mean? And so
Mhm.
many people struggle with that question, you know?
Yep.
Or
I know.
sometimes it does come down to like work-centered things. I like that I'm good at my job. I like that you know what I mean? Like it's
Right.
usually not,
Productivity
yeah, I like my work
tied to
ethic.
that.
And you're like, okay,
Yes.
and
That's so true. That's so true. I think there could be an added section here too. Like actually, it does say, I am worthy not because of what I do, but because of who I am.
yeah,
And I am dot, dot, dot. So you can fill that in. Yeah, because you're right. I think as, again, like working woman, you tie so much to like
yeah,
productivity and what you're
Yep.
doing. Um, and there are times when I am sharing this and I'll ask you both to share 3 things you love about yourself, but I don't have to put you on the spot today. I know it's early. But think about it, or just like
Yeah,
later
right. Think about
today.
it.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Growing strong is about empathy and forgiveness. Also being curious and compassionate about what someone else might be going through, who is being perhaps unkind to you. So it's really going deeper. It's really, again, shifting focus and seeing like, I'm hurting, but this person who hurt me might be hurting as well, or like what might be going on there. And then we also ask to replace with gratitude. But yes, this one's a little bit more about forgiveness, which is a heavier, bigger topic.
yeah,
We always say you don't have to forgive if you're not ready, but just to start exploring that.
yeah,
Um, and
Yeah.
then becoming rooted. This one's about turning all of your experience and knowing that you can help someone else in need in the future. So taking again what you've like processed through, but knowing that you can be a light for someone else who's maybe walking through a tunnel.
yeah.
So yeah, finding kind of like the beauty in it too, and just how you've overcome. And I think that's it. And then at the end, we just write your new story. How have you grown through just even the journal? But that's an
Yeah.
overview of like what's included in here. We've done workshops too, where we'll get together in person and do, or virtually, do some of the sections in here
I love that.
and just process together. It's a really, I think, healing process and journey.
Yeah.
And we also have a licensed therapist who does trainings on this and also leads our workshops. So she's amazing. Her name's
So
Vanessa.
I was kind
Mhm.
of curious, since you brought up the workshops, when you first were starting, what was kind of the first thing that you did? Was it workshops?
Yes.
Was it the journal? Like, what was kind of your rollout?
Kind of both. So I created a journal first. And then I connected with a nonprofit youth organization called KidWorks, and I shared about the journal, our curriculum there, and then they connected me with a site of theirs, and then I did the workshops there.
That's
Okay.
awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And if you're curious about that piece too, I did want to share something that was cool. Um, so I was going through some self doubt, right? Like, can I do this? And then
Right.
I ran a half marathon, which I don't do often, but
I
like
love that.
I did that back then. And it was a really good half marathon. Afterwards, I was feeling very pumped up and just like ready.
That'll do it.
And I know. So if you're feeling stuck or something, maybe I don't know. I
Simply
have
just
nothing
run a
really
half marathon. Simply do that, and it should be fine.
And it will go away.
right. I know, but it
Yeah.
did help with motivation. I will say that.
Yeah.
Um, so I ran a half marathon, and then I went to like an evening church service that day, and they said it was a leader of another nonprofit. He started El Pozo de Vida. They do work in Mexico City, and he said this one line that really stuck with me. He said, "Someone's answered prayer may be waiting on your faithfulness."
Mm,
So basically, someone's answer, what you could create could help someone else in need,
yeah.
and you don't even know it. And so
Yeah.
I like really made the decision then, I'm going to do this and no longer sit in this like fear and doubt, but step into it. And so I made that decision there. And then right after that, I went outside the doors and someone asked me, like, what do you do? And I shared, like, I'm starting this initiative. And they're like, that sounds so cool. And they ended up being the partner to the program director of KidWorks. So
Oh, cool.
that's how that
Yeah.
connection happened. Just kind of like right when I made the decision to do it too, I just realized, okay, it's time.
Yeah.
It's time
Yeah.
to go do it.
Yeah.
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 That's kind of a great like intro because I do want to talk about like I don't know if you'd call it marketing, but how did you get your company out there? So you made the decision, you were like, I'm going to do this, but how do you get people that are going to like come to these programs or these coachings? How are you getting people to actually buy your journals? Like how are you getting it off the ground?
Yes. And I'm still in that journey for sure. Like I'm still
Yeah.
learning
Yeah.
all about marketing, which I'm excited to kind of, hear from you too if you have any ideas. But I think just a natural. So we set up our Instagram page because we knew to like our target audience and market would be teen girls. We definitely want them to see like the encouraging messages that we're sharing. So Instagram was great. We set that up probably in 2018. And so that's been a good place to kind of grow and share there. And then other marketing, I'm still really just growing in this. A lot of word of mouth,
Okay.
definitely. I think stepping.
You,
So, mm-hmm.
I noticed you do a lot of partnerships and stuff, and you get involved with like community or other small businesses. I
Yeah.
know you did something just recently with Kendra Scott and
Yes.
stuff. How did that connection happen? And what is your initiative by doing that? Like, what is the goal there?
Yeah. So Kendra Scott's wonderful. They're just so generous with give backs. In when I was in Orange County, they reached out to us actually and said, we can do a give back event. So when I came to Austin, I reached out here too, and I said we
Yeah.
did this in Newport Beach. But they're just so generous. But other I've noticed other companies and small businesses are just really looking to give back too, and really looking to support nonprofits and initiatives. So that's been wonderful. And some of it's very organic. They'll just find us somehow and then reach out to us, or we'll reach out to them.
Yeah.
Yeah. But community partners are great.
Are
Mm-hmm.
you like partnering with any schools? Is that part of what you
Not
do?
schools. No, we're pretty much direct. So if someone's interested, they can just contact us directly, or youth organizations such as Boys and Girls Clubs
Yeah.
and the KidWorks
So has
organization.
most of your, it feels weird to say business, most of your business, but has
Mhm.
most of it come from like social media and word of mouth? Then that's majority of.
Yes, as of now, but I do
Okay.
notice this huge shift with what we're seeing in the marketing space. And I know that there can be a lot more done, maybe like through like peer to peer marketing,
Yeah.
um, campaigns. We did do one.
Podcast,
Yeah,
Yeah.
podcasts. Yeah.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Totally. Speaking engagements are great too.
Yes.
Where I can share my story and like hear from other people in person have been really good. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's
It
so
I
does
think
true.
feel
what's
like,
cool, go
go
ahead,
ahead.
Aud.
Go ahead.
I think what's cool about you, your this nonprofit in particular, is I think as small businesses or a business owner, you are looking for something to give back and ways to give back, not for
Mm-hmm.
only the tax write off or that thing
Mm-hmm.
that comes with it, but also something that connect with, right? And
Yes.
so that's why I was so attracted to um, I had this a very similar story, and so it aligned with me, right? And so it's just
Mm-hmm.
finding people and
Alignment.
business owners that you align with. Um,
So true.
it should be,
Yes.
yeah,
It
marketing
also
strategy.
seems like your mission and your like whoever's going through the program or the journal, it feels like it obviously is changing lives. And
Yeah,
so
Yeah.
you people that have gone through it, I'm assuming like girls that have done this, it would make sense that they would want to tell their friends about it and be like, this has made such a change. Or even moms. I can imagine a bunch of moms being like, this helps my daughter so much. Let me show you. It might help your daughter.
Yes.
Like it's almost like real testimonials being like, this helped me so much. I want this to help you too.
Yes. Yes.
exactly.
Yeah.
That's actually very true. Is just the
Mm-hmm.
sharing. So I actually wanted to talk about the Bloom box because I think that was kind of a cool idea. of just reaching people. You know, when somebody's going through bullying, you're not typically thinking like, I don't know, like how do you address it? Like you said, I mean, it's usually to a parent, but maybe your niece or your nephew or a friend's daughter or whatever may be going through it. And the Bloom box is kind of like a box with the journal, with these things to kind of give them something to actually work on and work through it. Is that something that you push? Is that some, how did you come up with that idea? And like, is that working?
Mm-hmm. Good question. So I think coming up with the idea is so true. It's here's something that you can work through. Here's something you can have in your hands.
Yeah.
When I was going through it, it was a lot of looking it up online and seeing like fact pages and things like that, which felt
Mm-hmm.
like it's just nice to have something to help you process and reflect. So it comes with that, some stationery, scrunchies, and just like kind of trying to be a very cozy feel too. Like here's your box of encouragement.
Yeah.
I love
Um,
that.
and I think that's actually a space where we could use a lot of like peer-to-peer marketing. So like
Mm-hmm.
having people share out their boxes that they're getting. We're still kind of in the preliminary phases of like doing all of that, but I think those who have received boxes absolutely love them, and so that's been exciting to hear. But it's just how to grow that more is where we're at right now too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We just had a Girl Scout event too. And each participant gets a box and like they get to unbox it together, go through
Cute.
it together too. So I think adding that in person element will be really helpful with the boxes too, or just like maybe a virtual event that they can like unbox together because
Yeah.
it is a fun
Have
experience.
you done,
Mhm.
this is like now I'm getting into my marketing brain, but have you
Yeah,
like
that's great.
brought your journals to like events and things like that and almost like sponsored or put them in like gift bags or things like that?
Such a good idea. No, but I would love to. Let me know if there are
Yeah,
opportunities that
I'm
you
like
think
any,
of.
I don't know, there's probably like, I don't know if you'd call it a conference if it's for like high schoolers, but you know what I mean? Like events that are
Mhm.
geared towards
Yeah,
like high school girls and stuff like that. You could probably have like a table or like I said, if they do gift bags or something like that. Because
I'm
we
writing
worked
this
with
down.
we had Ariana who is the starter of it's called Do Wellness. We've worked with them a little bit, and that's
Okay.
something that she's done recently is put her product in a bunch of like gift bags and stuff at these
Gift
different
bags. Yeah.
wellness events. But it puts your product in people's hands.
Right.
And then
I'm just writing
assuming
notes.
assuming they use it trickles into the peer-to-peer marketing.
Another thing I noticed
Absolutely.
you were doing was asking people to participate in like a social media kind of like tag or share
Hmm.
your
Hmm.
experience type thing. Can you kind of go over what that initiative was?
Yes, yeah. So there were three options, and it's May. It's right now as we're recording. It's mental health awareness, and so we asked if you could do three options. One is share a middle school photo of yourself and what advice you would give to your middle school self, and that it's really fun to see.
Yeah.
Number two is sharing about just a Bloom Foundation. We have shareable graphics and a little bit about our, mission, statistics. And then number three is to record a reel of your story of overcoming bullying or any advice or encouragement you would give. So
Yeah.
those are the three options. We just had Love April Green. She's a author of a book called no, it's called Bloom for Yourself. And it's a
Yeah.
really beautiful healing book. She has, I think, over 200,000 followers, and she just posted her reel. So I'm excited about that today.
That's very
I love
exciting.
that.
Yeah.
I also love that you gave three options because there's going to be some people who are not comfortable doing one of them. So there's like different tiers, obviously.
Right.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
very cool.
Yeah.
I want to kind of dive into like success as a nonprofit. Tara had wrote this down originally as something to talk about, and I thought it was a really interesting topic. Like, how do you define success? Because it's not the same as like a regular business of like, how much money are we making in this quarter? You know what I mean? So, how do you define success as a nonprofit?
Oh, that's such a good question. I saw that too, and I appreciate that. Um, I think. Well, we do. We have numbers that we do record and want to have there. We do have KPIs too. I think though you're right. Like I love qualitative data too. So
Mhm.
hearing people's stories, hearing how they entered the program or started, and then how they are after. Even your story piece. So they start with their story and then they end with their new story. So hearing that is just really cool too. So
Yeah.
we track success too by like how more empowered and confident girls feel by the end of it too. So that's
Yeah.
in addition. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
wondered that. I was wondering that too. Like, how do you, is it a number thing? I mean, I know most businesses are, and I'm sure there is that side of it, but how do you really measure like this is working, this is changing lives? But what I think and what I've noticed so far is that it's working from what I can
Mhm.
see. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And getting feedback is huge. And testimonials, like you're saying, like those are just really helpful to kind of keep track of, to keep us going too, or keep me going. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
to hear that positive feedback. But also sometimes constructive feedback too, like making changes. Like this journal is probably a seventh iteration of the first one that I
Yeah.
ever did. Right. So,
Yeah.
Yeah. And
mhm.
I guess it might be a little not easier, but you do have a little bit more numbers because there's a product involved versus like just
True.
trying to, get your name out there and work with people versus it just
Yeah.
being a
Mhm.
program essentially.
Right.
Exactly.
So
Right.
you're able to see like
Yeah.
how many orders or how many journals have gone out.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's all the questions I have. Tara, do you have anything that you wanted to kind of dive into?
No, I think it's great. I'm super glad we went over the journal because I think that is like the key piece. It's just it will stick with whoever uses it. It's something they can use and reflect back on.
Yeah.
So I'm so happy that you came on, and I'm hopeful that we can do. I mean, we're going to work with
Yeah.
Bloom any way that we can at the agency, and hopefully spread your message.
Yeah.
So
Thank
I
you.
love all of
Thank
it.
you.
I wish I had a journal like that when I was like in high school.
right,
Yeah.
I
So,
Me
know.
too.
to kind of conclude everything, I would love if you could let everybody know where they can find you, where they can get your journal, everything like that.
Yeah. Follow us on Bloom Foundation Instagram, one word. Our website's hellobloom.org, O-R-G, hellobloom.org. My email's Andi, A-N-D-I, at hellobloom.org. And you can purchase our journal on Amazon now. So
Oh, I love that.
that's in our link in our bio on Instagram.
Perfect.
Uh,
I love that so much. Thank you so much, Andi, for
Thank
coming on. Was there
you.
anything I should have asked? Was there anything that you wanted to cover that we didn't ask you about?
No, I think we covered it so much.
Yeah, I know.
I really appreciate it. I think that we're good.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming
Thank
on. I
you.
hope we get to talk to you in the future. Like as
Yeah.
Bloom continues to grow, we can kind of recap at a later date.
Uh,
Yeah,
yes.
let's do that.
Perfect. Well, thank
Sounds
you for
good. Thank
listening,
you.
you guys. Thank you for being on, Andi, and we will talk to you next week.